Good evening, Australia. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Kazilny, and thank you once again for joining us on this lovely Wednesday night. It's called Tough Times Never Last, but tough people do. And if you're going through a tough time, I hope you get better much sooner. And I'm very impressed with the people who over the last few years have come on the show and talked about their personal issues. It's great to have authentic and down-to-earth people in life rather than pretentious. You know, I look at life and you see all these people on one side, pretentious, not being real, always talking about themselves. And then on the other side, you get these authentic, down-to-earth people who really want to give back. And on tonight's show, we've got Kelly on the couch. Kel, thank you very much for coming on. Now, Kel's gone through some interesting, tough times in life. He's been homeless for about 5 years. He's been locked up in a psychiatric institution. He's had alcohol and drug issues and also psychiatric issues. But at the end of the day, you got over them all. And at 52, mate, you're one of the happiest people I've met all week.
Yeah, well, you know, the big issue had a lot to do with that. That really turned my life around recently.
Is that right?
That's it's just been. My doctor put me on Social Security.
Kel, where did it all start? Let's.
Okay, start at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, with a great man, mate. You come from. I came from Germany when I was.
I came from
15.
Holland.
You
originally.
came from Holland.
Yeah, Dutch originally. Yeah,
Dutch.
Born in Holland. Yeah.
We could have been on the same boat coming over.
We
maybe.
could have been before the jumbo jets ever flew. Yeah.
So your parents were the same. They had this adventurous spirit. They
Absolutely.
wanted to go to another country.
They wanted a better life for themselves and their children, and they decided to go and settle in Perth, Western Australia. And so we all grew up over there. And of course, when I finished high school, I came and worked on the East Coast. But
what did you do on the East Coast?
To work, Melbourne especially, yeah.
Okay.
Because there wasn't that much work in Perth in those days. In the early 70s, you know, it wasn't the metropolitan city that it is these days. It was still very much a town in those days, you know. And what I noticed in those days already, and what gradually began to dawn on me, and owing to people's advice and everything, was schizophrenia was setting in from the age of about 16, 18, a textbook case in a young adult, a male, of how schizophrenia actually sets in. So I had something that was happening to me that I found out my whole life long about and had to somehow take steps to get over, you know, become, in a certain sense, really at peace with and sorted with, you know.
So you were schizophrenic, were you?
Yeah, I was all right during my early years, but it was a textbook case that generally sets on with male adults between the ages of 16 and 18 typically.
But let's talk about you. Let's not talk about...
Yeah, all right.
No worries. Let's talk about the great man, Kel.
Okay.
Yeah? You had some issues, yeah?
I was doing all right, I thought.
Yes.
But I wasn't doing all right. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It's like...
I'm straight down the line, mate. Maybe my mind thinks differently, but how were you feeling? Were you mucking up or were you depressed?
I was making mistakes, you know,
right.
Mistakes of reasoning, of logic, of deduction, of presumption.
You speak very well, though. You're highly
I know.
intelligent.
I could have been something, but you know,
you are something.
It took me a long time to put the issues of mental illness together the right way for myself. You know, you have to live with yourself, and that took a bit of doing.
Tell me, because this interview time is so short. Tell me about being locked up in a psychiatric institution. What happened there?
It wasn't just because I was a crazy person. Like, it wasn't the Arthur Seat massacre or something like that. My family immigrated out from Holland on very little money.
Yes.
Maybe your family did too. I don't know.
Yes.
But Mum was really the chief breadwinner at the family at times. You know, which was still a very revolutionary thought for the early 70s. You know. Mm-hmm. But then Mum got very sick and was passing away. And Dad was also in hospital owing to having been involved in a hit-and-run accident that nearly killed him as well. I was the eldest son in the family. I had schizophrenia beginning to set in. And under all of that stress and trying to find work and not finding work, in the end, everything just started to give way.
You weren't coping well.
I couldn't cope anymore.
Young. How old were you then?
I was about 19. Yeah, like the song goes, I was just 19.
And pressure was building up. And
too much stress.
And viewers, that happens all the time, doesn't it? There's so much pressure in life. They say there's 60,000 thoughts going through our minds every single day. And unless we meditate or do something to relieve all that stress, you know, people start having nervous breakdowns or start suffering from mental health issues. I know, having been around the criminal justice system for the last 25 years or so, you know, I tend to meditate every morning for about an hour and it just clears my mind. But we all know how stress can affect the body, and it then gets us depressed, and we get onto the drugs and the alcohol.
Yeah.
So what happened then? You had a
Look,
breakdown?
for my own safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was assessed, but obviously, which still happens to today. They sent out a small team of qualified psychiatric health professionals.
Like the CAT team these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To talk with you and to see exactly where your reasoning is. You know, like where are you at, man? You know?
Yeah.
So obviously, I failed that like no end in sight.
I'd probably fail it too. Right now.
And then I was further assessed in the prominent psychiatric institution in Western Australia.
Yes.
Because obviously this was a very big family affair in the 70s. And, over that 6 months or so, I began to turn in some model results once again, started attending university. And
tell me about the psychiatric place. Where did they take you?
It's called Claremont Greylands in those days. I think it's still called Claremont Greylands in these days as well. Is it
like Larundel? Remember the old Larundel?
It's like that, yeah. It's a huge government facility.
Still there?
I believe so, yeah. The last time I was there, it was still there. I haven't been home for about 7 years, but it was still there when the last time I checked.
Did they treat you nicely in there? Or?
It was good, man, yeah. It was good. Like, we had meditation, for example.
Did you?
Absolutely, every afternoon. Yeah, I attended religiously, of course.
Yes.
But, I turned in a good result, and, I got on with my life. Started to really believe that medication could help up to a point.
Yes.
But after that, you had to get the dirt on your hands yourself as well.
Of course.
And most psychiatrists and GPs, psychologists that I've talked to over the years, have agreed, like, medication will only provide an answer so far.
Of course.
You still have to get the dirt on your hands yourself.
You still have to go through that personal experience. And when did the drug and alcohol issues start? When did you hit the grog and the drugs?
Well, from that point on, I was inside, in 78, 79.
Inside where?
Claremont Greylands for about 6 months.
Yep.
Right. I went to university during that period of time, came back to the East Coast and started to...
Well, university while you're in the...
one year of undergraduate studies, yeah.
Oh, while you're in the living in the psychiatric unit, you're leaving?
I was leaving. I started while I was at the psychiatric unit, and then I went home to live with my dad, who was also been released from the hospital because he could walk again.
Yes.
And Mum was in those days passing away, yeah.
God, so what an issue. And what drugs did you hit? Cannabis or...?
Just a variety of different... I'm not going to, say, gosh, I love that, or gosh, I hated that. It's just like... I guess every adolescent in Australia at some stage or another, in one way or another,
of course,
is asked if they're going to inhale or not,
You wanted to escape?
I wanted relief from the stress and anxiety that my life had been plunged into,
And isn't it amazing, viewers, there's so many people suffering from stress and anxiety, isn't there? And it's a sad thing. But look, don't go away. We'll be back very shortly with Cal on the couch. Welcome back to the show. I hope you're having a fantastic night. I hope you had a great week as well. And isn't it amazing? Attitude's so important, isn't it? I always say if you have a poor attitude, you get poor outcomes in life. Average attitude, average outcomes. But if you try to talk yourself into having a super fantastic attitude, you do really start activating a positive world, don't you? Because there's so much stress and anxiety in our lives. And a lot of people don't get themselves checked out. They live in a state of depression, always trying to look forward to something like a conditional happiness. They set themselves holidays. They think they'll be happy when they finish their degree, when they write a book, when they meet their partner. But really, I think it's important just to wake up and enjoy every single day. Forget about the past. The past is dead time. The past brings back experiences. It's really just the now, isn't it, Kel? Just
That's
the now.
Right. Yep.
And it's hard to hang out in the present place, isn't it? But it's the best place.
You can't escape from reality.
No.
There is no escaping reality. And as we were saying, reality can grip you, and you can't cope with where you are at. And that's when things really start to go wrong, But as you were saying, and as I was saying as well, you can find a way, something like Beyond Blue, for example.
There's so many services out there, but what you were saying before, that's interesting. I want to pick up on that. And what Cal was saying is that we create a reality, we activate. And I think every cause has an effect. And it's basically the law of karma, a very ancient law. And karma basically means come back. It's like the boomerang I keep on talking about for the last 5 years. Whatever we put out there comes back. If you give out love, love will come back. If you give out anger, anger will come back. If you backstab people, people are going to backstab you, probably 100 times as bad. I've never seen a person who's done the wrong thing by his fellow human beings and has come out on top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And all these people, I mean, the backstabbing and the work bullying, I think it's disgraceful.
Yeah.
But people do it in a big way, don't they?
Sometimes it's a wonder to us, you know, the innocent parties maybe.
Yeah.
In your life, you know, in your professional, in my life as well. As a chef, for example, you stand back and you see all this craziness going on, and you wonder, you know, like, is it me or? You know, have these guys lost the plot, you know?
Yeah, the work bullying is getting worse and worse. It's starting at schools and then, of course, at universities and then even with mature people at work, you know. Have you heard about him or have you heard about her? And it makes these people feel better, but little do they realise that they're creating very, very bad karma and something will happen in their lives that will wipe them out. It always happens, doesn't it? I knew this guy in the police force many years ago. He was the biggest backstabber. He'd be complaining every time he went outside and had a cigarette, he'd be backhanding somebody. I saw him a few months ago and his life was miserable. It was falling apart. Yeah. And I knew for a fact, Kel, that bloke wasn't going to be successful, you know?
Absolutely.
He poisoned
Michael.
Too many minds.
Yeah.
And if we can just... you know, remember, just be a bit more love-orientated towards others. Treat strangers like friends you haven't met before, and be a bit more authentic.
Yeah.
And a lot of our viewers are. I'm not talking about our beautiful viewers, but there's a lot of people in Western society who just don't get it, do they?
No, they don't.
They're still
They seek
backstabbing.
relief, like we were saying before, in drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And like I noticed when I was drinking, the drink was taking me down a path that I shouldn't go down.
Yes.
You know, I'd drink, I'd wake up in a park somewhere with no clear recollection of what I had done, how I was going about it, where my money went. So in 1985, I stopped drinking. You know,
Good on you, mate. Well done.
You know, it was just like, it was one step to take.
Yeah.
With seeing as I had a mental health issue, it was one step to take towards sanity that I could and should do.
Good on you.
You know, my experience showed to me that drink was leading me down a garden path that I shouldn't want to go down any further.
No.
So since then, no more drink. Well, I had one stubby. The year 2000 came around. I mean,
right.
I just had to say, here's the new century, you know, the new 1,000 years. But that's been about the limit of my drink since 1985.
And viewers, Cal was also saying that for about 6 years he was living on the street, just didn't have enough money to have any accommodation, and people wouldn't put him up. So sometimes we just take life for granted, don't we? We think we can all live in a nice house, have a beautiful cars, nice Armani suits, but you know, there's a lot of homeless people out there who just can't afford to feed themselves and even rent an apartment.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the little things can be the most daunting task of them all. You know?
Kel, tell me in a nutshell, how did you get into being homeless for that many years?
Well, look, I'd managed to find some sort of work over here on the East Coast, you know, like at least some sort of menial work. This was in the years before I started to learn how to become a chef. And the option existed that I had some money, and at least had some money in my pocket to eat, to live, to drink. I wasn't on social security. I was living a happy little life.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a mental health institution.
No.
You know, I was taking some medication at least. I was, because of people like the St. Vincent de Paul, Hanover, the Salvation Army.
Yep.
I could have a shower, I could have a wash, I could have something to eat.
Yes.
So I was existing, I was surviving, I was on the fringe, but I didn't have enough money to put a roof over my head.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know.
So where did you live?
Look, my favourite haunt, you know Carlton somewhat, I'm sure, Michael.
Yeah.
You know how Carlton has so many terrace houses, row upon row of them, like stretching out for miles, you know?
Yep.
And each one of those terrace houses is usually used by a professional person, a barrister, a doctor, an architect, a contractor, some sort of a business of sort.
Yeah.
Has a huge veranda on the front of it.
Yeah.
And usually these people don't show up until 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning to take possession of their professional property, their offices.
Yes.
So on those verandas, you can kip out every night of the week. No one ever says boo to you there. It's one of the most beautiful areas in Melbourne.
So you'd sleep on the veranda?
I'd sleep on the veranda there. I'd have my blanket, my kit bag with me and everything. And Just sleep on the veranda like a prince under the stars and
Isn't
go
it
back to
amazing?
work about 8 or 9 in the morning.
Isn't it amazing? You turn a negative into a positive. And I remember one time when I lived on the Gold Coast for a few years, I was going through my own personal tough issues in life. I slept on the beach once. After going to shooters all night, but that was enough for me. That was uncomfortable on the beach there. But isn't it amazing, ladies and gentlemen, how Kel's turned a negative into a positive? He's made the most of every situation, and that's the way to do it, isn't it?
It's
Because I really think that everything in life has a plan. Everything that happens in our life happens for our maximum benefit. So if we think that we're a victim when we break up, when we go bankrupt, when we get a medical disease, I mean, we're going to go around in a circle of unhappiness. But, the hits of life will keep on coming, won't they?
They will.
And we've got to almost invite them and become fearless and courageous. That's the way we really have to live.
You have to, yeah.
I went to a funeral, folks, only 3 days ago, and a young fella in his 30s, God bless him, died of a brain tumour. And he knew he was going to die. He had about 12 months to live. And he said, I'm going to make the last of the last 6 or 12 months. So he wrote himself a list and did all the things he wanted to do before he died. Yeah. And when we were at the funeral, he actually had a video saying, this is not too bad. I want you guys to celebrate and have a good time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So life is such a fleeting journey, isn't it?
Life is life. It's good.
It's good.
Really?
Life is good.
Yeah, life is good. Yeah.
But backstabbers are no good.
No, baggers, no good.
No, I don't like the baggers, mate.
No.
I see them a lot. I hear them a lot, and I used to come back, 10 times as bad. But I think if I'm just as bad as the backstabbers, then you've got to come back with love, don't you? But we'll be back very shortly with Cal on the couch. He's a very good man. And welcome back to the show. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Hope you're having a happy Wednesday night and getting through those tough issues in life. And remember, it's good to go through the rainbow of emotions. Can you imagine having just fine weather every single day? Life's very much the same. We just have to knuckle up and get a little bit more spiritually resistant. I do it through meditation. Other people do it through prayer. Others do it through boxing or going to the gym. But as long as you can find something to make you that little bit tougher, you'll get over those challenges, I'm sure. Kel, you certainly, you've got a smile on your face, which is great. You never saw yourself as a victim, did you?
No, not really, Michael. I knew that I had a job in front of me if I was going to successfully cope with what I knew I had inherited in some way. I knew there was something wrong with me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it in my younger years, but increasingly I could put my finger on it over the years. It was just a slow, meticulous progress of what worked for me in turning my disease around.
Ever hit rock bottom that you thought suicide is an option?
No, not an option, but you do think about it, You do think, like, geez, this is just getting too bad, This can't go on anymore,
No.
This must stop,
Yeah.
And you think within yourself, look, what are my options? What can I do, Is there anything that can be done to make all this change,
And that's right, folks, isn't it? Change. Change is so important, isn't it? And we activate change by our thoughts. I always say that whatever you do, say or think has a corresponding effect on the universe. Whatever you do, say or do really creates a ripple effect, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
No one's going to come to the rescue. That's the thing, folks. No one's going to come to the rescue and change your life. You really have to do it yourself and get your hands dirty, don't you?
Yeah, it's like what the big issue says, a hand out, not a hand up, not a hand out, They want to reach in there and help you do something.
Yes.
They don't just want to give you, a bag of lollies and send you on your way and give you even, worse things in the future.
You're going to make things happen, don't you?
They want to set you on your way to help you get through it somehow, They like to be of assistance to you,
Quite often when I finish at the Melbourne Magistrates Court, Cal, I see the young chap outside the court and quite often I buy a copy and it's an interesting read.
It is, the content is very good. We've got a really A-grade editor. He used to work for The Age and all the rest of it. He's a really brilliant guy. He takes actually quite a number of vendors, including myself, for creative writing workshop on Thursdays afternoons. Gets people to start to put their thoughts on paper in an article format to see if they can be published, you know.
Good stuff.
So this is all, it's all happening there, you know. That's a good thing.
We were talking about karma before, you know, coming back, and you said, over the years you sort of, you got it, and you noticed it with other people who mucked up, and it comes back. Yeah, tell me about that.
Look, I live in a boarding house at the moment because it's just the easiest way that I can live, you know, on my limited finances at the moment, being on Social Security.
Yes.
But we get a lot of people coming into the house that are fresh out of prison or out of a mental health background. And myself and some of the other guys who have found some sort of work to go on with to augment our Social Security and all the rest of it, we quite genuinely say to each other, look, if such and such doesn't pull up his socks now, he's been out now for a month or so, you know, if he doesn't really get in touch with the straight and narrow, start doing something with his life, he's liable to go back. The revolving door policy of prisons and mental health institutions will spit him out again later on, you know, maybe another year down the line.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah.
That's a very, very good point, isn't it, viewers? That's right. We really have to make things happen, and remember, no one's going to come to the rescue. And life is tough for everybody. We just have to get through those tough times.
Yeah.
And make the most of every day.
Yeah.
And not be victimised by people, you know.
No,
I always find, viewers, that, you know, a lot of people want to be part of the crowd, and there's a path most travelled, and a lot of people go along that path. But if you take a different path, that's when people start criticising, throwing stones. But the best thing in life you can do is to become an individual. I really mean that. The best thing you can do is become an individual in life and be independent to the good opinion of other people. That's so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, people don't like it if there's a group and you act a little bit different to the group.
Yeah.
They try to drag you down, don't they?
They do.
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's like a man. Sometimes people say a man hears what he wants to hear and he disregards the rest, you know?
Yes.
And sometimes you've really got to use your own best wits, your own best understanding of life, and not just live life, you know, like...
Live life thinking what other people think. And viewers, that's so important, you know. Even public speaking, what are people afraid about? Not talking, but what will other people think about me? So the best thing we can do every day is to be independent to the good opinion of other people, and not worry about what the backstabbers say. Just live your own authentic life, because you come here by yourself and you're going to die by yourself. You're not going to die with the group, with the sheep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the best thing we can do as human beings. Yeah. Give back, but also live an authentic life. Yeah. You know, even if you get the backstabbers and
be your own best friend.
That's so important, isn't it? Self-esteem's so important for all the young people. Build that self-esteem every single day. Yeah. Love yourself without being too vain, because the more love you have for yourself,
the more you can give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Henry Nissen, he's a social worker, a beautiful man. He's been on the couch a few times, and you might have seen him. He says there's two reasons we're on this planet, to love others and to be loved. And everything else is just in between, isn't it?
That's just it, yeah.
You know, who wants wars, backstabbing, greed, violence? I mean...
Yeah. It's like we search for a positive outcome.
Yeah.
We try to forget about the bad times. We try not to dwell on that. We try to find some sort of a way that things are actually better for us from now on, you know?
Yeah.
We try to compromise with ourselves so that we don't, in the end, really have to compromise ourselves. We try to find a way to live, you know? It's
how are you spicing up your life now? What do you do for fun these days, Cal?
Look, I've gotten back into my chef's life, into my chef's work. I've managed to pick up a trade. That's going along well. I don't think that'll always be on Social Security anymore.
Do you watch MasterChef?
I do, actually. Yes, I do, and I think it's actually quite a good program.
Great show.
Yeah, quite a good program. There's also The Big Issue, which I really enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always very good. I've got a few little things like that happening. Yeah.
There's some good stuff on Channel 31 too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gripping television.
Good stuff, mate.
Gripping television.
And so you've worked it all out. And what advice can you give to people who might be going through a tough time, just while we're finishing off?
Look, if you're really on Social Security and you're finding it very hard to make ends meet, which can be the biggest downside of being on Social Security, just making even that extra $100 a week to make your life a little bit better, at least a fortnight, try and sell The Big Issue. That's always a way to go.
Thank you very much, Kel. You're a very good man.
Thank you
very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got an interesting story to share, please give me a call or email me. Love and best wishes. See you next Wednesday. Good night.